It's your boy Calabasas Jones, and you know what time it is. Miss Marvel, episode 4, titled Seeing Red. Let's jump right in. Okay, the positives. Man, that opening track, like that star theme, man, like, Marvel knows what they're doing up in here. Those were straight vibes. Like, it just brought you into the episode. Super chill, just an amazing way to get things going. The lighting when Kamala was exiting the terminal, transcendental. It had this rainbow feel to it, just like it really got you into the mood of the episode really quick and with like expert precision. It was awesome. Then the petals go across her face, as they're exiting the terminal, seeing red. That's where it all started. The City of Lights, Karachi. I know you caught that. Light, awakening. And that's exactly what's happening to Kamala through the series and especially during this episode. And shout out to Marvel for making Karachi seem like a must-visit destination. I might actually go. This episode, just multiple elements of it kind of reawoke the travel bug within me. So great job, Marvel. Like, I was feeling some serious vibes coming off this episode. That leads into when Kamala is in the cab and leaving the airport, going into the city. Whoever did this episode, multiple people worked on it. I know that they travel because it captured that emotion perfectly. When you land in another city, like a foreign destination, especially at night, it feels like you've entered another dimension. And they really conveyed that perfectly in the opening scenes. I almost shed a tear. Like, it really took me back to my own moments, to my own travels, and it brought that, it presented it perfectly. They captured the emotion well, and man, I gotta get back on the road again. That's really what it awoke within me. So when Kamala's laying in bed, texting her homegirl, Kamala, I'm gonna need you to get an iPhone. She was rocking that Android pretty hard. Nothing wrong with Android, but Kamala, I'm gonna need you to get on that iPhone. But I guess the branding deals, the licensing deal for Apple is probably astronomical because Bruno was using a Windows tablet in episode 2 when he was scanning Kamala's body energy. So yeah, Apple's probably pretty expensive, but I'm gonna need y'all to make that happen. Marvel and Apple, Disney and Apple, it seems like it needs to happen, so let's do that. The male cousin, he was funny. At first I thought he was funny. He turned out to be kind of like mean as the episode progressed, but he was a welcome bit of levity in the episode. And speaking of overseas accuracy, they nailed people selling you things on the street perfectly. Like, that's exactly what it's like. And especially when it came to the guy taking the picture, it seems like they're about to give you something for free, but it's like 1,500 rupees. Like, man, like I said, I can tell the multiple individuals that worked on this episode, they travel because they captured it perfectly. That's exactly what it's like. And I need to start traveling again. Okay, those directions, you're going to make a right, then a left, then another left, then a slight right. Again, perfectly accurate. Just, it captured the travel emotion feeling perfectly. Okay, so skipping forward a little bit, we're going to enter the Red Dagger. So in the comics, the Red Dagger is an individual, a Pakistani superhero, real name Kareem, who has ties to Kamala's family. Specifically, his mother and Kamala's maternal aunt went to secondary school together. And while he was getting ready for college, he lived with Kamala's grandmother, who's in the episode, in Karachi. Dope name for a city, by the way. It's Karachi. It just sounds dope. He attended a student exchange program in New Jersey where he actually lived with Kamala's family. So he's deep in the game, hanging out with Kamala in the comics. A very relevant character to her, and he's prominent in the episode. His power, he doesn't have superpowers, but his ability is expert marksmanship. He uses daggers, so that's exactly who he was in the episode. The only thing they changed was that in the episode, the Red Dagger or the Red Daggers, they're a group, and their role is to protect like this dimension from extra dimensional threats, specifically the clandestine in this case. So I thought it was a good transition. If you didn't know the comics, it seemed perfectly appropriate. It makes sense, and it was a good way to weave the comics into the visual media. He throws in the Terminator line at the end. That's obviously hilarious. I mean, you got to give a shout out to that. And of course, the Red Dagger's presence in this episode gives credence to the entire title, Seeing Red, literally seeing red. It all comes together in that moment. That cut to the clandestine. They're escaping the Supermax prison. That was pretty cool. They got out of the Supermax just because. So obviously we know they're strong, but they left my man Cameron back in the cell in the hallway. That's cold. But they really just gave Kamala another ally. He was already, you know, on her side, but he's really going to be rocking with her after this. So get ready for that. He's going to be joining up with her, you know, for the rest of the series. Okay. That beach scene, man, that was funny. That was funny. They did a little international Abercrombie right there, real quick. The bonfire, the guitar. I'm like, man, yo, my man Red Dagger. I know you got some homies, but are all your homies like models? Incidentally, like that scene was hilarious. So that was good. That was good. I'm sure that biryani was good too. Out the bag, like if you go overseas and they give you food out of bag, you know it's gonna be good. I was getting hungry actually watching that episode. So yeah, shout out international, shout out Middle Eastern food, shout out getting something to eat. Okay, so the acting on this show is on another level, and it really is. I'm gonna get to that in a little bit, but the scenes they show between the grandmother and the mother, when, you know, the mom was revealing, it was the toffee boxes and all that stuff. And then Kamala and her mom, like, that was top tier stuff. I almost forgot I was watching a show for a second, like a TV show. It just seemed so natural. But that's what Marvel does. And that's one of the staples of what's made these productions what they are since the beginning, since Iron Man 1. Well, technically since Incredible Hulk 2. But, just throwing in the top tier actors on top of everything else, the visual effects, the story writing, so on and so forth, the actual comic book material, it just makes it what it is. And this episode and this show is not disappointing. Those scenes, those family scenes, natural is like a light way of putting it. They were extremely good. So it was awesome to see that. So when she's back with the Red Daggers in their little underground hideout, they refer to the fact that she can use the Noor, the light in this dimension. And it's because they theorize she's part human, part jinn. Now that's cool because that's the actual lineage of the clandestine, which I mentioned in my last video. In the comics, they are starting with the progenitor, the male is a human, female is a jinn, and all the kids are half human, half jinn. So that was cool. They just refer to her as a jinn. In the comics, she would be in the clandestine, like by definition, but obviously she's not in the show. But to have that direct reference to the comics, very cool. Okay, so the dad soloed every member of the clandestine when they finally showed up. That was hilarious. Like, so I'm like, okay, the Red Daggers aren't just talk, like they can really get down. So that was cool. That was cool. He ended up getting killed, but we'll get to that in a second. That escape with Kamala and the Red Dagger, as he would be in the comics, was absolutely hilarious. The one-wheeled wheelie down the street. Like, luckily Kamala had her powers because they wouldn't have made it out of that otherwise. So, but that's beside the point. But yeah, that one-wheeled wheelie, it just brought me back to episode 1, which I keep bringing up because it was so over the top with that Ant-Man head like rolling and speeding up as it was rolling and then hitting something and breaking a steel cable. That's crazy stuff. Like, comic book elements, a little comedic, very welcome. It was good. It was a good scene. So yeah, as I mentioned before, the dad got killed by the leader of the clandestine, by Kamran's mom. And that was sad, but it was like a growth moment for Kamala because she realized there's actual stakes to all this. So that was unfortunate, but for Kamala, she's like, okay, this isn't the play, like there's some stuff that can actually happen out here. So that's going to be a pivotal moment for her. When she was finally fighting and she did like the flip move on Homeboy, I was like, okay, they might have like skipped over a little bit, but she was obviously training down there with the Red Daggers because she's using her powers a little better. And that was a legitimate martial arts move. Like, I was like, she couldn't play dodgeball 2 weeks ago. Now she's like beating people up. So she obviously has been training, and that's good. That's very good. Wish we could have seen it, but that was, I mean, I'm glad she's getting down with the Red Daggers. And now to the last scene, which was the premiere scene of the episode for a couple reasons. It was just epic. It was epic. It was epic, first of all, because Kamala time traveled. Anytime you see someone time traveling, it's not something you can just do in your backyard. Like, you gotta have some equipment to do that. So she actually time traveled, which is amazing by itself. And as I mentioned in the last video, episode 3 review, one of the powers of the Negavans in the comics is interdimensional travel. So interdimensional travel, time travel, essentially the same thing. So she's actually accessing the powers of the negabands as they're presented in the comics. So that's really cool. And then the actual scene work itself, man, I was froze. I was watching the episode froze up, getting chills because I have, an acting background, and I could just see the amount of work that went into that scene. It's astronomical. Like, the general public doesn't really know or realize really what goes into acting. A lot, a whole lot. I would actually personally compare it to like a military level of organization. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's on that level. So yeah, I could see everything that led up to that scene. Just the amount of people, the actors. I mean, when they zoomed out at the end, I think there was a little CGI, but when they were up close, those were all real people. So the costumes, action, the organization, the train, and it was seamless. The scene had the emotion, like it was good. I felt like I was back in time. I mean, you could feel Kamala's sense of like, where am I? It just seemed so authentic. All the dust, that scene was on another level. And Marvel keeps doing this. Like in Moon Knight, they had the sky turning scene, which was the scene of the episode, one of the scenes of the series. Like, whenever you think you know what's about to happen, they throw in this crazy, set piece or scene, and it's like, man, they're actually out here working. Not just riding on, their laurels or past successes. Actually out here doing it. So that last scene was the perfect way to close the episode. It was a great scene that showed off acting skill, production skill, the whole nine. And it was just dope. It was an awesome part of the episode, awesome way to end the episode. I mean, yes. So room for improvement. Not much. The show is strong. It's a strong show, except for one thing. Just one thing. This is the first episode, the first production of anything in the entire MCU where I've actually noticed the separation of superheroes. Like, I actually noticed it. Before and everything else, I never really it didn't seem like it was a thing. But in this one, it kind of did. So, the dad told Kamala the whole true history. The clandestine is they told her they're trying to get back home, which they are, but also they want to overwrite our dimension with their dimension. That's a pretty big threat. I instantly thought, where is Stephen Strange? As I said in my last review, but this time, seriously, where is Stephen Strange? He should and would know about this. In Thor 3 Ragnarok, at the beginning, as soon as Thor and Loki show up in their dimension on Midgard, on Earth, within 5 or 10 minutes, Doctor Strange had put Loki in the little, falling loop and called in Thor for questioning. He's like, yo, I monitor threats on this whole dimension, really. And your brother, I perceive him as a threat. Just let me know what's going on before I hem him up, because I can and I will. So he has Thor on the hot seat, you need to start talking, Thor. And he's serious, I'm Doctor Strange. So for these people to be running out here with actual plans to, overwrite the dimension, on a full scale, and Doctor Strange isn't involved or doesn't even know about it, is almost inconceivable. So, like I said, I've been reading comics for a long time since I was a kid, and in the comics, it doesn't really seem so weird when the superheroes aren't interacting. They bring them in when they need to. It's okay, everyone's doing their own thing. But in the context of these films, you know what they can do. So this is the first time it seemed even a little bit jarring that another superhero wasn't involved or didn't even know about something that could potentially happen on this scale, especially one that's proven to get involved if there's even a hint of something about to happen. So, that being said, writing these series, man, has to be a Herculean task, just in scope, just in actual work, keeping track of all the threads, so on and so forth. So I get it. Definitely going to keep watching, obviously, but this is the first time in the entire MCU since 2008, or whenever Incredible Hulk 2 came out, I think a little before that, the first time I ever noticed the separation of superheroes. So there we go. Rating. It's a 5 out of 5. Still gets a 5 out of 5. Easy. This show is crazy. In this episode, they captured the feeling of travel absolutely perfectly. From the plane to her getting out in the terminal, like riding in the cab. That's exactly what it feels like. Like, anyone who travels, you know they captured that perfectly. The acting, all the family moments were super heartfelt. They seemed like there were just real people interacting, so that's how you know at the highest tier. And then, obviously, the train scene at the end. One of maybe my top 15, maybe top 20, maybe top 15 scenes in the entire MCU. And I'm dead serious because it was dope. And you could see the work that goes into it. So, super awesome, an easy 5 out of 5. Some housekeeping. No more social media. Your boy is off. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos the Zen aspect of the channel, that I'm not really down with social media, but I was going to try it. Well, I tried it. Not for me, but you can always catch me here on YouTube, holding it down with the nerd culture reviews, and on Substack. I have an email newsletter. It's where I gather like all my videos for the week, some interesting links, just some things to think about. So hit me up on there. Thor, 7 days. We're almost there. So be ready for that review. Kamala Khan, I got you next week, holding it down. Don't even worry about that. And we're coming up on She-Hulk pretty fast. That's August. So now it's July. So that's literally right around the corner. So be ready for that. And that's all I got. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Peace.